So my dog can do it, but he'll only do it if I'm holding food, or he'll only do it in the house. If that is your situation, the first bit of good news is you are not alone. Ask any trainer how many times in a given day they hear that. The next bit of good news is that it actually means you are on the right track. You are on the track for training. It's just a longer track and you're right at the beginning. So the purpose of this mini webinar is to talk you through the system of how you build reliable behavior in your dog and ultimately fade out the need for using food. It is good to start with it though. So the first thing to understand about this is you'll often hear trainers talk about the 3Ds: duration, distance, distraction. Those are the three things that you need to build reliability through. And these things are on a spectrum. For instance, distraction, a low distraction environment is going to be pretty easy for the dog, and most dogs can do it. A high distraction environment is really hard. You are going to have to put in some work to build reliability in a high distraction environment. The good news is it's fun, easy work, and you and your dog will love it and love the time together, but it is not just going to happen. The next component of training that reliability is communication. Dog trainers are kind of like interpreters. We're constantly teaching dogs how to speak human and humans how to speak dog. The first key to communicating with your dog when you're teaching them these training commands, or some people call them cues because it's less authoritarian, is that you need what we call a marker word. And that is a word that marks the second the dog achieves the correct behavior. You ask them to sit, you mark the second their butt hits the ground. You ask them to down, you mark the second their chest hits the ground. But marking the second they get it right is going to greatly improve your communication, which will greatly improve your dog's reliability and interest in working with you. Just like you, if you get frustrated, you kind of want to stop, your dog will disengage also. So the marker word is really key. I use yes. Some people say right. Or use a clicker. Any distinctive noise will work. People always say, well, can I use good boy? No, you say good boy like 1,000 times a day. That is not a distinctive word. And no, you can't. And so the communication is also on a spectrum. Luring is the easiest for your dog to understand, which is why it's not surprising that you're stuck there. That means you've got the food in your hand. You're showing them what to do. Moving on to a hand signal and a verbal is a little bit harder, but dogs understand body language much better than words. So the very hardest for them is communicating with a verbal only. The main commands that we teach the dogs are sit, stay, down, and come. And this is going to be the path to building those reliably without food. In the beginning, your dog is pretty much at a 1-1, where you're luring and at a low distraction environment. So a lure would mean, for instance, with a sit, you're taking the food, you pull it up above their nose goes up to follow the food, their butt hits the ground, that you've lured your dog into a sit. So luring your dog, in our example with sit, in a low distraction environment is the first step. And we're going to feed in the beginning every correct response. So we're at a 1-1, we're luring them, we're feeding every correct response. Even if your dog is beyond that point, I would go back to it. If you're going to do this program, start at the very beginning, because this is your foundation. And I know it's not the part that everyone likes, but ask people in a house without solid foundation what that's like. It's really worth building that solid foundation. When your dog in a low distraction environment can be lured into a sit 100 times is kind of the number I give people, and go ahead and use their food. Do this at dinner. Do 10 sits as you put their food bowl down. When they can do it 100 times without missing, you're ready to take the next step on the journey. And that is moving your lure, fading it into a hand signal. So your lure, for instance, with sit, where we were lifting the treat up above their nose, now just lift your hand up, kind of bend your elbow so your palm goes up by your shoulder, and say sit. And this is where we call it the differential reinforcement, because we like to sound smart. But this is where we start to fade the food. At this point, if your dog responds to the hand signal, we're going to mark and feed. Yes, feed. If you have to go back to luring, mark, yes, when they do it right, and give them verbal praise, but we're not going to feed that anymore. We're only going to feed if your dog responds to the hand signal and the verbal. And again, when your dog can do this reliably, 100 is always the number I give people. I know it sounds high, but it's like 1 second per time, and you're spreading it out over several days. You don't want to train for more than 5 or 10 minutes a day typically. But when your dog in our number 1, our low distraction environment, will respond to a hand signal plus a verbal about 100 times, then you're ready to move on. And we're going to move down this continuum to the verbal only. So anything back, hand and verbal and lure, you're still going to mark and praise when they do it right, but we're only going to feed them when they reply to the verbal only. So we say sit. They do it, we feed. If you have to use the hand signal, mark and praise. Yes, good puppy. But we're not going to feed. And if you have to lure, then you probably weren't ready to move on to the verbal yet. So I would take a big step back as we're kind of dancing around this continuum. But this is an exciting point. If in a low distraction environment, your dog will reliably respond to a verbal only, you are ready to graduate. And where do you think we're going to go? We take the elevator up to the medium level, but you go all the way back, typically all the way back to a lure, I would say, because this is a lot harder. You've just made it a lot harder for the dog. Now, in terms of your food, if we're at a level 1 at the low level, we're always going to mark and praise and real life rewards, playing, petting, all of that is great, but we're only going to feed if we're at a medium level of distraction. But we are going to go back to go ahead and lure them. If you have to, that's fine. So that means the treat's in your hand again. We've gotten it out, but we upped the ante. So again, work in your medium distraction environment. This could be your yard or somewhere that's more interesting than the house. It's got more smells and sounds, but nowhere novel. Somewhere your dog is familiar with that they go a lot. Any novel environment is going to be too high of a distraction at this point. And we work through the progression again. Lure them about 100 times. And when they're really reliable with that, move on to a hand signal and a verbal command out in your medium distraction. And remember, anything back or below, we're going to mark and praise and real life reward, but the food is only for responding to a hand signal and a verbal in a medium distraction environment. Then when they've done that reliably 100 times, move on to a verbal only in our medium distraction environment. This doesn't mean that high distraction environments aren't going to come up. They're the majority of the time. They're there all the time, but it's just fine to not expect your dog at this point to be too reliable in them. But we are going to start to feed only for verbal only in a medium distraction environment. And when you get to this point where your dog is really reliable with a verbal cue and medium distractions, we take the elevator again. We graduate to high distraction, and this is where it gets fun. But just think about all of the repetitions, all of the practice your dog has had in all of these different contexts. So it's going to come. We've put in a lot of work to get to this point. But it is a high distraction environment, and that could be your friend's barbecue if we get to not socially distanced, or the dog park. Places that are really exciting and interesting to your dog would be high distraction. So we go all the way back to the lure and repeat the process, moving right along. Once they're ready, to the verbal and the hand signal. And that's actually pretty amazing. But remember, every time you move up a step, then you're going to reward 100% food rewards for the level you're at. Anything below or back on the spectrum is mark and praise and real life rewards, but the food, the good treats, are only for this new really high criteria. And If your dog, and this may take a while, but at this point you have a pretty reliable dog. A lot of people never get past this point, and that's fine. If you want to take it to the next level, getting to a verbal only in a high distraction environment is pretty much the ultimate. And once you're there and you've rewarded with food about 100 times, you're really at the point where you can still do some intermittent rewarding, but your dog really will be very reliable, and you've long since stopped having food in your hands. But you always remember you can do real life rewards, petting, praise, and marking the behavior. Now, we walked through this example with sit and the D of distraction. You can do this with any of the Ds, duration, distance, or distraction, and any command. Some of them matter more than others. For instance, with come, distance is going to become very important. With stay, duration becomes important. But with all of them, you need to work through the distraction level first. So thank you for listening. Keep Call of the Canine in mind for all of your training needs, and feel free to follow us on social media and share this with any friends that are still stuck at having to hold food to get their dog to listen. Thank you.